Good afternoon, everybody. Today we'll be watching through a Cliffe Knechtle video. We're going to get right into it. I'm not going to introduce too much. If you guys are interested in watching the full video, I will be linking it down in the description below.
All these eyewitness testimonies, everyone believing in Jesus, that could have been a giant cult back then.
It could have been.
And that everyone was just crazy and believing in that cult.
Could have been.
And
then all of a sudden the early church was built off of this cult that claimed to be overnight believing that a God became human, died, rose from the dead. Then all of a sudden all these Jews who never would have believed in a God who would have actually died on a cross and rose from the dead, they would have been the last ones to believe that. All of a sudden overnight, 2/3 of the Roman Empire became Christian. What's the hoax? What's the hoax? What happened? No. See, if you're going to deny this, you need to tell me, or maybe tonight, come up with it yourself. You need to tell me then what occurred. What occurred? It wasn't the resurrection. So what occurred?
again,
If you don't have a theory and you're coming to a crime scene, bro, if you're coming to a crime scene and I have a theory based off of the evidence I have, and you have no evidence to the contrary whatsoever, you're just saying, it didn't happen. That's weak, man. You should be fired on the spot.
I'm not making an active assertion, and I'm not, there's no burden of proof because I'm not asserting that anything's false or anything. What I'm simply asking is why you believe and how you believe. Because, again, back to the whole cult thing, we've seen, the idea of a cult.
The Branch Davidians. Absolutely.
We've seen people,
Jim Jones. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And, again, I'm not asserting, yes, this has to be false.
Right.
I'm more asking as someone who wants to believe how I can truly believe with all faith and no doubt.
Absolutely. And so you have to go to Jesus Christ yourself by reading the Gospels, figure out, did he exist? So 98.9% of scholars believe that he existed, right? So we're there with that. Secondly, was his character pure, perfect? He claimed to be God. We expect some pretty good character, right?
Yeah.
What about his sayings? He said these things that were of authority, which meant they transcended even the law at the time that the rabbis were talking about. So his teachings must have been pretty stinking good. Now, what about the resurrection? Well, all scholars, even the most atheistic, will say that there was an empty tomb. That tomb was Joseph of Arimathea's, that the disciples claimed to have had some experience with Jesus, who at first they thought it definitely was not Jesus, but then all of a sudden they claimed to have had experiences that it was, that there was tremendous life change with the top rabbi in the known world at the time, which was Saul. The life change turned to Paul because he had an encounter with the resurrected Christ. And then the church began. And then all of a sudden, 34% of the world became Christian. Okay. Now, it could have been, Jesus Christ could have been, like you're saying beautifully, Jim Jones, or he could have been David Koresh, who had these two huge cults. So he claimed to be God. As a mental health therapist, I see a lot of people who claim to be God who are schizophrenics. Many. So Jesus Christ could have been a schizophrenic who pulled off this incredible hoax, and now 34% of the world think he's the Son of God. Could be the case. Could be crazy. Could be the case.
Yeah. So, okay.
What is more likely? That he actually was a son of God, or that he pulled off this incredible hoax that has changed the world and changed the entire known Roman Empire? And by the way, if you're here at the school searching for a higher level education, you do realize it was all Christian missionaries who started this school, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, right? So the search for truth was fully Christian.
Yeah.
So, do you sacrifice for others, do you think, at times? Yeah. Are you kind to others? Are you compassionate to others?
I hope so.
Okay, you are a Christian even if you say you're not a Christian, according to Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
So be a little more consistent and don't be a Christian in your lifestyle if you're going to be an atheist. Don't live that way, right?
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
Okay. One big thing, I guess, what it's boiled down, at least in my mind, is the idea that, your faith and your belief in Jesus comes from, through these facts, through these texts, an understanding and a trust that these human documents were indeed correct, and that from these things that happened, you believe that it's implied that there was a Jesus, so there was a God, so there's all this. And I guess we kind of agree to disagree, because I don't know if we'd ever come to that reconciliation,
right.
is that, I think there's too much room for too much room for error, too much room for change, too much room for things to be false.
Good.
That I can't stake my
I'm with
entire
you.
life and my entire belief and my entire system on it.
Yeah.
So like,
So can I reinforce your point even more?
yeah.
400,000 variants in the Bible.
Yeah.
Why do I shouldn't believe the Bible? It's 400,000 variants. Okay, well, 6,000 manuscripts though.
Yeah.
So there's endless more words and theological doctrine, obviously, than any type of variants. And these variants are missing commas, for example, that a scribe missed. So do I have a problem with that? No, I don't. Because I'm not of a certain religion or ilk that says this Bible is directly from the Word of God with zero error. No, God used humans, obviously, to communicate his message. But I think what ultimately gets to that question, I hope this is a sufficient answer, maybe it's not, is within the first 100 years after Jesus' resurrection, the eyewitnesses, many who were still alive, according to the earliest creed, 1 Corinthians 15, 3-8, Paul talked about this. These creeds were passed all around the known world. So everybody had the central message of what occurred with Jesus' resurrection. And that's how the early church happened, so it wasn't a hoax, and it spread so quickly. Now you have to get into, okay, but is everybody just lying? Was it the wrong tomb? Well, hold on, there was enemy attestation coming from the Romans that actually this did occur, but they say that the disciples actually stole the body. And so never do we have any extra biblical, outside of the Bible, documents saying that the resurrection did not occur. Everybody took it at face value, they just didn't want to talk about it. So within the first 100 years, just remember this, it was oral eyewitness testimony that spread around the entire Roman Empire that central thing happened, the resurrection.
Yeah.
So it wasn't misinterpreted. It didn't come till later, hundreds of years later, where all of a sudden heresies broke out and said, oh, but was he fully human? Oh, but was he fully God? I don't get it, huh? What about the Trinity? But early on, we still have all the evidence in the world that was the message based off of the evidence.
Okay, one last question.
Yes.
So, like, oh wait, I forgot my question. Oh yeah. So, considering agreeing on this hypothetical truth of the resurrection, I understand that, but I don't understand how, you agree that God's messengers are humans, right? And humans can make mistakes. So I don't understand how that trust in maybe that historical event leads to your trust in everything else in the Bible that's being said, and no acknowledgement of the fact that maybe this teaching was wrong, maybe this scripture was wrong, maybe this was mistranslated, maybe this was misaccurate. And for someone to base their journey to heaven on an unreliable document that could have mistakes, and to believe that a perfect being had this document to give us their message, and it has mistakes, it has inaccuracies, but it's supposed to eternally teach us, I can't reconcile.
Throw it out.
The Bible?
Throw it out.
Throw it out.
Throw it out.
Okay, what do
we
we do?
still have everything that happened. Throw it out.
But now how do I know how
Everything that happened outside of the Bible, we have all the documents that I just mentioned, all the sources,
No, but then how
that
do I-
this is what occurred from enemy attestation, people who didn't want the Bible to be true, the events in it to be true,
I'm not talking
were
about the
claiming that
events.
this occurred.
I'm not talking about the events. I'll tell you about how do I know how to live my life now if we're throwing out the Bible. So how do I-
Well, sure, the ethical teachings that were passed down orally and eventually written down,
Yeah.
sure, you want to live off those ethical teachings. Now, you could say because of the character of the people who actually wrote them, because of the
I don't know those
character
people.
of Christ. Well, yeah, you certainly don't know them. But wait a second, hold on. I just said you are living like a Christian based off of all your values and ethics. That came directly from the Judeo-Christian faith that founded this very university.
There are many
So if you're
Christian
doubting all of it, and saying, no, it's wrong, it's not true,
there's many
then
Christian
why not
values.
live more selfishly? Why not cheat on your exams if you can get away with it? That's from an
many
evolutionary
Christian values that I don't
perspective,
believe
just
in.
get away with it.
There's many Christian values that I don't believe in, I don't live by.
Okay, what are some of those?
Premarital sex.
Premarital sex. So this is why you're not a Christian. You said 5 times out here, guys, I just want to make sure we all heard this. I want to be a Christian, but then all of a sudden we get to the very bottom of it, and it's an emotional bias.
It's not
It's
emotional
your faith based off the frustration on premarital sex. And I'm with you, bro.
not just
I don't want to be
premarital
a Christian either, because of the emotional bias of I want to sleep with as many women as possible.
That's not what I said.
That's exactly, I promise you, that is what is driving you. I promise you that's what's driving you, at least a huge part of it.
Okay, so,
All right, that was your last question, right? Because we're going to have to move on.
I got a really good follow-up question.
And it better be really good. If it's not good, we got to out.
Really good. Okay. We could really, I really just want to hear your thoughts.
Get the gotcha moment. Yep.
Okay. So, again, throw the Bible out, but we're trusting the ethics and teachings of Christianity because of the character of these figures. But if you just said we could throw the Bible out and that it's about the historical variability and the Bible is flawed, why are we believing in every single thing the Bible is saying and every single teaching it has if you yourself just said that, like, you can't fully trust it?
There are endless amounts of things in the Old Testament that are descriptive and not prescriptive in the New Testament because they are not repeated. So we're not, I'm going to play football this afternoon, possibly with my daughter. I'm going to throw the pigskin. Well, it says in the Old Testament, don't touch pigskin.
Yeah.
So am I breaking a law?
No.
But it says it in the Bible, according to you. It says in the Bible, I am breaking a law.
I don't know. It seems like it's not. I don't know. It seems like you're leading me to saying it's not breaking law.
I'm not leading it. It says it.
Okay, so it is breaking law.
According to you?
According to the Bible, yes.
According to you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what did I just say? That's in the Old Covenant. That's descriptive at the time for the Israelite nation.
So
now in the New Covenant, it's not prescriptive because it's not repeated, and Jesus came to fulfill that law.
So we're just interpreting the Bible.
So just remember, yes, you interpret every single thing that you read, I promise. Everybody here interprets. If you don't interpret, you are lying to yourself and to me right now. I promise you interpret.
There's room for subjectivity.
There is room for subjectivity, but I hope you are honest with context, authorship, readership, time period. I really hope you look into these things and not just say, I'm going to go to the Bible. You know, Jesus was the door, so here's a couple pieces of plywood just slapped together. So, you know, he's a door, but that's my subjective opinion. That's my interpretation. He was just a physical piece of plywood. I hope you're not going to honestly go and say, you're just cherry picking and saying that.
So
hey, you're going to read it honestly.
It's our interpretation of the writings in a flawed manuscript from flawed people that is our surefire way to reach heaven. There's a lot of inconsistencies there.
Well, then all of your classical literature is completely flawed, and you shouldn't trust any of it because it was the monks who passed it down.
I mean, we critically analyze all our...
The monks who passed it. That's what we're talking about here. Critically analyze it.
Yeah.
But the central tenets of everything in the Gospels, I promise you, my friend, have been reliably passed down, starting through oral testimony. The eyewitnesses themselves, they started to die off. The monks started to perfectly write it out, other than these variants where the commas, some of the periods are missing. I got to study Hebrew. It was very difficult when I was getting my master's, trust me, and yet incredible the consistency across manuscripts when you look at Hebrew in the Old Testament and then Greek in the New. I had to take that too. I got a D+ on that.
Yeah, but again, I'm not talking about accuracy of manuscripts. We were talking about ethics.
Yes.
And the ethics of the Bible.
Yes.
And
this is why you don't believe. Because you don't like the ethic of premarital sex. That's why you don't believe.
So I'm glad that Stuart didn't just ignore this. He confronted this individual, this atheist, with this topic. Because to my experience, some atheists reject God in the Bible because they don't like the sounds of it. They want to be their own God. They're comfortable in sin, and they don't want to have to accept a God. They don't like the sounds of that. So instead of, coming to God and accepting salvation, they stay in their sin. But this individual really seems that he's in denial about it. Because like he said he wants to believe, and then he goes on to say that he doesn't like the idea of no premarital sex. See, that, to me, I agree with Stuart, seems like he just doesn't want to be a Christian because he wants to do what he wants to do. See, that's the problem, is a lot of atheists aren't open to Christianity because they like to do what they want to do. And to my experience, that's really the problem, is that people want to be their own God and decide what's right and wrong.
I promise you're a handsome guy. I can tell by your personality. The main reason you don't believe is because you want to sleep around, just like the majority of professors that I know who are honest about it. The sooner you are honest with yourself, I promise, the more unbiased you will come to interpreting the Bible.
Oh, that was my last question.
Great questions today, man.
Thank you.
Love it, absolutely.
And real quick, I would like to mention some Bible verses that kind of relate to these things. The first one being Romans 1:18. And it talks about how people suppress the truth and unrighteousness. So instead of coming to God, they are in opposition to him. And instead of seeking God, they continue in sin and suppress the truth. And to everybody else who may be having some similar questions or maybe even questioning the existence of God, Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, "Seek and you will find. Ask and you will receive. Knock and it will be open to you." So if you honestly have an open heart and seek the answers to these questions you might have, you will find the answer. Thank you to you all for taking some time out of your day to tune into this video. And please check out some of my other videos if you haven't already. Stay blessed.